Hello ladies and gents, today we are going to be going into our next mother sauce, which is sauce bechamel. And with that we are going to be making one of my favorite sandwiches, a Croque Monsieur, or a Croque Madame if you decide to top it with a fried egg. Very delicious, very rich, great combination of smoky, salty, creamy, rich and fatty. Really delicious. It's basically a posh grilled ham and cheese sandwich, but topped with our bechamel sauce. So this sandwich is going to utilize a bechamel sauce, which is a milk thickened with a white roux, and we're going to use that to not only top the sandwich but also use it in the sandwich itself. So our first step is to make our bechamel. Alright, so the first step is to make my bechamel sauce. So, a bechamel is a white milk sauce thickened with a white roux. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to melt my butter, and then I'm going to sprinkle in my flour. And over medium heat, I'm just going to whisk this for about a minute or so. I don't want to cook this very far because this is a white roux. Now, important, I'm going to add in the milk, but add it in slowly in stages. Otherwise, what ends up happening is you end up getting lumps inside of your bechamel, and it's not what we want here. Now the milk mixture has thickened up a little bit, but not too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add half of an onion, a bay leaf, a pinch of clove. I personally like a little background heat of cayenne pepper, and then some white pepper. Now you can use black pepper, but keep in mind this is a white sauce, so the black tends to leave specks in the sauce. I personally don't mind that, but I kind of like the flavor of white pepper in a bechamel. Now to this, I'm also going to add a little fresh grating of nutmeg. Nutmeg tends to bring out dairy and butter flavors really well, so that's why I'm going to add a little bit of it here. Now for a traditional bechamel, that's really all the flavorings you put in. You want to keep it pretty simple because this is used as a base to make other sauces such as sauce mornay or sauce soubise. Now for my sandwich here, I'm going to add a little bit of ground thyme. You can use fresh thyme as well, but at this point I'm just going to let this simmer for about 15-20 minutes, just kind of let it infuse and cook out some of the raw flour taste. And then I'm going to just kind of check consistency, thin it out with a little bit of milk. I'm looking for the sauce to be what is called nappe. For this sandwich, you want it a little thicker than normal traditional sauce. In this case, I'm going to thin it out just a little bit with some milk. But that is pretty much good. You want to remove the bay leaf and the onion. Now at this point, my bechamel sauce is ready to go. You can give it a taste and just check for salt and everything. Again, remember this is a base sauce, so it's not going to have a super strong flavor on its own, but it'll be perfect in our sandwich. Now this is optional and it's not traditional in a bechamel, but you can add about a tablespoon or so of Dijon mustard to this. A little bit of mustard goes very well with the cheese that we're going to be using and the ham. Again, completely optional, but I tend to kind of like it in this application. Alright, now we're going to assemble the sandwiches. I have my sourdough bread laid out. Now, optionally, what you can do if you really want it really toasted and really crunchy is that you can brush both sides of the bread with butter and then put it under the broiler just to kind of toast it and get it nice and crunchy. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be assembling the sandwiches. I'm then going to be on a griddle, just kind of grilling both sides. I kind of like that because I like the contrast of the soft inside and the crispy, crunchy outside. Again, completely up to you, but if you want maximum texture, that's what you want to go for. Alright, to assemble this, I'm just going to take a bit of my bechamel. I'm going to spread it on one side of the bread quite generously. I'm going to take a little bit of my cheese. Now, here I've got some grated Gruyère cheese. Now, traditionally in a Croque Monsieur and a Croque Madame, you're going to be using Gruyère cheese. Gruyère cheese is a bit expensive, so you can use Swiss cheese if you would like. It'll still be a really good sandwich. From here, I'm just going to layer on some Black Forest ham. Try to, when you're putting on the ham, try not to just kind of lay it flat. Try to kind of fold it so it gets a little bit of height and so that the sandwich kind of sits nice and tall. It gives it a really nice look. It also makes the amount of ham that you put in there look very generous. So again, just a little attention to detail that just makes this look a little bit better, especially when you cut into it. It's really nice. All right, from here, I'm going to add a little bit more of my cheese. Now, if you want to, you can season this with a little bit of black pepper. I also have some fresh parsley here that I'm going to put on. All right, from here, I'm gonna add a little bit more bechamel onto the top side. Now, I'm not gonna add quite as much as I did the bottom slice. And then I'm going to carefully top each sandwich. And there we go, now they're ready for cooking. All right, here comes the fun part. Basically, we're making a grilled cheese sandwich. So, I have in my stove, I have a griddle pan. You can do this just in a normal non-stick pan, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to generously coat the bottom of my griddle with some butter, and then I'm gonna place my sandwiches down. And already that smells really, really good. And then from here, just keep the heat on about medium-low. Don't rush this. Let the bread toast up nice and slowly. That way the cheese has some time to get melty and everything. I'm just gonna take my time here. If you see that the bottom of the bread looks pretty dry, then you can add a couple of extra pats of butter just around the bread. But for now, I'm just gonna wait and let this cook. And once I see one side is nice and toasted, I'm gonna add a little bit more butter to the pan, flip the sandwich over, and look at that. Nice and golden brown, nice and crispy. There you can see that I can already see that the cheese is nice and melted. So I'm just gonna let that cook on the other side, and then we'll go on to our next step. From here, once I'm happy with the other side, I'm gonna transfer this over to a baking tray. And then we're gonna do our last step before broiling. All right, now that the sandwiches are nice and crispy, I'm just going to top it with the last dose of my bechamel sauce. Coat it pretty generously, and then I'm going to top it with the rest of my cheese. Make sure you try to cover the edges of the sandwich with the cheese, because the cheese will actually act as a little bit of a heat shield to make sure that the corners of the bread don't burn. All right, from here, I have my broiler preheated. I'm going to broil this for about a minute or so. Just keep an eye on it. Every broiler is a little bit different, so I'm going to broil this for about a minute or two. And in the meantime, I'm gonna show you how to take this Croque Monsieur and turn it into a Croque Madame. So, I'm gonna just kind of preheat the pan on medium-low heat. It's a non-stick pan. I'm gonna put in a generous amount of butter. Now the key here is you want to keep this on a very low heat. Add your egg in and tilt the pan gently. Here we're not really so much as frying the egg as we are just kind of gently poaching the egg in butter. I'm not going to add any salt to it yet. I'm going to wait for the egg to be almost fully cooked before I start to add salt. Otherwise you'll have like little specks of white and stuff on the yolk, which doesn't really change the flavor at all. It just kind of makes it not look as pretty. So I'm just gonna let this cook for about 5 to 6 minutes, or until the yolk and the white is fully set. All right, and here we have it. We got our Croque Monsieurs. And to make one of them a Croque Madame, I'm going to put a nicely fried egg on top. Because I haven't seasoned it in the pan, I'm gonna add a little bit of kosher salt, a little bit of black pepper to the top of the egg, and then I'm just going to garnish very, very simply with either some chopped chives, or in this case, a nice bit of fresh minced parsley. And then the Croque Madame, I'm gonna slice right through the egg yolk and open that up so you can see the yolk is nice and flowing. Really, really delicious. Great for breakfast, great for a midnight snack, and just great overall. And there is our bechamel sauce with our Croque Monsieur and our Croque Madame. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time.